Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. It's May 23rd, 2016. Thankfully, no major political assassinations today. The only death I heard reported was a Japanese pop star, and we'll talk about why they were targeted today. It had very much to do with the numbers that I was talking about. We're not going to start with that story, though. We're going to begin with the significance of today and then go through all the major news headlines today. Today is May 23rd, the 144th day of 2016. This number 144, it is very special in history. Notice that the word time has Jewish gematria of 144, and time itself has a lot to do with this number. Every single day there are 1,440 minutes. This same number sequence with a 0 on the end. The square root of 144 is 12. Think about 12 hours in the morning, 12 hours at night, 12 months in a year. All throughout history, this number shows up in major events. And oftentimes they're tragedies, such as assassinations. I covered this in the videos when I was telling people to look out for May 23rd, going back to February. So anyhow, today some major things happened, and they happened by the numbers. You know, all these people are posting, and I'm having to delete comments because I know these people are either trolling or they're too stupid to be here. I never guaranteed anything was going to happen today. I said to look out for this date, special date, I expect big news. And we did get big news today. You know, it was a day full of huge news headlines, including stories that I've been talking about since last year, such as the Freddie Gray story, a story that I said they'd be bringing back at some point this year. Today it shows its head. But let's start with what I think was the biggest news story of the day, Obama going to Vietnam, a surprise trip. Well, at least so they tell us. I don't think it was any surprise at all. Look at this. Okay, so right there, White House officials had indicated the arms ban in force since 1984 would be lifted only if human rights in Vietnam improved. So Obama, he went to this nation, he gave this speech about the New World Order trade deal, the TPP, and potentially lifted an embargo that had been in place since 1984. And why is 84 so significant? Right here. Vietnam, home of the plus 84 dialing code. Vietnam in gematria equals 84. Obama in Jewish gematria equals 84. Obama's birthday is August 4th. The word bomb equals 84. When you write out 84, it sums to 804. We just had this story, this missing plane, Flight 804, that disappeared 804 days after the Malaysian plane, the Asian airline. United States of America also equals 84. All of these things interconnected. Obama's still in Vietnam. Right now it's May 24th there. He's supposed to fly back to the United States sometime in the next 24 hours. But Obama travels to Vietnam on this special date, you know, Mr. 84 himself, and makes this deal. And what's interesting about that is this is now the second communist nation he has traveled to 63 days apart. He went to Cuba March 21st and March 22nd, you know, lifted deals that had been in place, did videos on that. And now 63 days later, same thing in Vietnam. And remember, 63 is a special number this year. If you add up every number up to 63, it sums to 2016, like the year. So 63 days apart, 2 trips to communist nations, turns 2 long-standing policies between nations. They mention how this is 41 years since the Vietnam War. USA equals 41. Barack Obama in gematria equals 41. The word king equals 41. 41, the 13th prime number. United States began with 13 colonies. So that was a big story, you know? Something that hasn't happened since 1984. Also, I'm writing my book right now. I was writing my chapter on Vietnam today. It wasn't planned that way. It's synced up that way as I'm going through the book. Ended up writing about Vietnam today. In Vietnam, the offensive put on by the North, the Soviet-backed North towards the South, which the United States was defending. Their major offensive was called the Tet Offensive. Loss of life in that period of time. It's when the protests really built in the United States because it was being reported in the media how many Americans were being killed. Vietnam was a French territory. Remember when, once upon a time, well, what am I saying once upon a time? It's really still this way. The United States, Britain, France, Spain, these countries, many of the world are their territories. Vietnam was one of their territories. I noticed that the Tet Offensive ended in history on September 23rd in the year 68, special year 911 was made the National Emergency Dialing Code, year World Trade Center construction began, year George W. Bush graduated from Yale in Skull and Bones. Anyhow, the French Revolution calendar begins on September 23rd in most years, including this past year. In history, it began on this date, September 23rd, the French Revolution calendar. I find it really interesting that the Tet Offensive ended on September 23rd in light of this being a former French territory and in light of everything else I show in the book about how these world powers, France, the United States, UK, have been scripting wars by numbers that are special. Recall, September 23rd to the date Flight 804 disappeared, just days before Obama went to Vietnam. That came exactly 239 days after September 23rd. The date September 23rd can be written 23/9. Right now, the United States is 239 years old. I don't think any of this is coincidence. I think this is all evidence of how history has been scripted. And I think what happened today, just think about it. Obama goes to Vietnam and lifts a weapons deal. Weapons, war. I think this is all a tribute to the past and also foreshadowing of what is to come at some point in history. That's what I continue to explain. I'm decoding history. I'm trying to show how they have the future scripted. It's not an exact science. It's work in progress. The more I learn, the more I observe, the more easy it is to, predict, show what's been going on. From March 21st, Obama again was in Cuba, March 21st and March 22nd until May 23rd, 63 days. I don't think that's a coincidence either. Big news, specific numbers. So another big news story today, Baltimore officer cleared. And I've done several videos on Freddie Gray. I've been saying keep your eye on this story. It's a story by the numbers. We'll see when it shows up again. And lo and behold, it shows up on this date, another date I've been saying to look out for. So the officer that was cleared today is named Edward Nero, a name that reminds us of all sorts of things, a name that sounds completely contrived. In Gematria, the name sums to 53 and 107. 53 is the 16th prime number. Think about how this case has been pushed back to 2016, a story that started in 15. It wasn't a shooting in the Freddie Gray story. It was injury. But I just document that the word shooting have gematria 44, 53, 107, kind of like his name. So often police officers involved in these suspicious shootings. Military also has similar gematria. The police are essentially the domestic military force for the country. It's an actor agent name. These are the numbers coded into it. So anyway, Obama's in Vietnam today, and Vietnam was a civil war, North versus South, the United States intervening on the South, the Soviets and China intervening on the North. In the Freddie Gray story, I documented this last year. There was this Vietnam veteran that got all this praise in the media for a day for supposedly calming down the protesters. And they made a big deal about his Vietnam service. Now look at the Freddie Gray story coming up the same day that Obama's in Vietnam. This is not a coincidence. Check this out. This guy's name was Robert Valentine. Robert Valentine. And let me show you what's so special about the names Robert and Valentine. Robert is a name with 33 gematria, a name special, or a number special to the Masons. Valentine is a name with 102 gematria. United States of America equals 102. The Civil War began April 12th, the 102nd day of the year. Lincoln died April 15th, 1865, a date with numerology of 102. Slavery equals 102. Think about the Civil War being fought over slavery. The name Freddie Gray also equals 102. Freddie Gray was injured April 12th in Baltimore. He died a week later, April 19th. The Civil War, which began in 1861, started on April 12th, the same day Freddie Gray was injured in Charleston. The first death in the Civil War was April 19th in Baltimore, where Freddie Gray died. Freddie Gray died April 19th, 2015. Again, Freddie Gray 102, Slavery 102, Civil War started on the 102nd day of the year, a war to save the United States of America, which equals 102. Lincoln dead on a date with 102 numerology. Robert Valentine, the Vietnam hero. I'll tell you something real quick. Hopefully you can appreciate this. George Orwell, he wrote the book 1984. Remember, United States of America also equals 84. George Orwell died exactly 156 days before the start of the Korean War, the next major war at the end of World War II, which was connected to it. So remember what's significant about 156. If you write out 33 as a word, it sums to 156. The number 911 is the 156th prime number. On September 11th, the buildings fell down after existing for 33 years. The construction firm that built them had name gematria of 156. These are numbers that get paired together often. George Orwell, he died at age 46, having to do a sacrifice. The Korean War began on what would have been his 47th birthday. Think about the significance of 47, how much we talk about it. If you've never read George Orwell's book 1984, it's about a nation that's controlled by screens, and it's always at war, but the people don't know why. Doesn't that sound a lot like the United States of America? United States of America equals 84. This unnecessary war at the end of World War II, a civil war, begins on George Orwell's birthday. And George Orwell was a pen name. It's very possible this is another man in history who faked his death, maybe to escape his celebrity. Can't help but notice that he died January 21st, 121, a lot like Revelation, what the Masons use as the playbook. So anyway, South Korea, Vietnam, Charleston, all civil wars, all with parallels. It was a civil war between North Korea and South Korea. The United States supported the South, the Soviets, China supported the North, a lot like Vietnam. American Civil War in gematria equals 161. There's a number called phi, the golden ratio. It's 1.61. The American Civil War equals 161. The South Korean War lasted 161 weeks. And in my book, I show all the parallels between these wars. They're all scripted around the same set of numbers. Obama in Vietnam, the same day the Freddie Gray thing's brought up. It's not a coincidence. From today until July 4th, the nation's birthday, is a total span of 43 days. It's said that Albert Pike, the Confederate war general, wrote a letter about 3 world wars. He wrote that exactly 43 years before World War I started. Civil War, the small way equals 43. Charleston, the small way equals 43, where the Civil War began. Abe Lincoln, born on the 43rd day of the year, the Civil War president. The judge in the ruling that let off this police officer, his name equals 63. Again, sum 1 through 63 equals 2016. From April 12th until today is a total span of 407 days. Look at this. 1 year, 1 month, 11 days, a lot of ones. Also, 58 weeks, Freemasonry equals 58. Freddie Gray died on a date with numerology of 58. Lincoln died in Ford's Theater, which has gematria of 58. Obama reopened Ford's Theater at the beginning of his presidency. Top story this morning, officer cleared in Freddie Gray case, 33 minutes. Of course, you know? All these people are shameful, you know? You know why this guy does it? The same reason everyone else sells us out. In this world, you need money to survive. You find yourself in a hard spot. You'll do what you got to do. That's why we as a people have to stop putting ourselves before the good of humanity. Start doing the right thing. You know, maybe you're in a hard spot and CNN comes and says, hey, we'll pay you $100,000 to be Robert Valentine today. You got to say no. No, I'm not going to be Robert Valentine today. Also, did a video earlier this year on the suspicious death of Trey Walker, the Baltimore Raven. Notice he's born August 5th, a date that can be written 5/8 like Freemasonry. He died March 18th, 2016. From the day he died until today, that's a total span of 66 days. Also 9 weeks and 3 days. 93, Saturn, the keeper of time. Anyhow, 66 days until today, the thing about Freddie Gray. And the reason that stands out to me is because Freddie Gray equals 66 the small way, and Baltimore Ravens equals 66 the small way. Trey Walker in gematria equals 44, the kill number. Today's the 144th day of the year. Again, when you write out 44, it sums to 144. Today has 44 numerology. I noticed Trey Walker in English gematria equals 804, a number that just came onto the radar with the missing flight. All these stories are a web. Murder for ritual going along with the narrative. Baltimore Ravens in English gematria also sums to 1,044. 0 doesn't count in numerology. That's kind of like 144. Also 174, New World Order equals 174, number of the beast, which means 666, 174. You know, I don't quite have this one fully connected, but I'm definitely thinking his death is connected to whatever they got planned, part of their ongoing scheme. So we were just talking about Barack Obama being in Vietnam, you know, Freddie Gray connected to the Civil War. In the time of the Obama presidency, the mainstream media, who's run by the Masons and the Zionists, they've been working extra hard to divide the people of this nation over race, religion, everything. You know, saying Obama's a Muslim, oh no, he's a Christian, he's not really American. You know, people, you know, that divide over race. I said this before Obama became president. I've seen this country for what it was. I told everyone back then that Obama was a fraud politician and he was going to be used purposefully to divide people as a scapegoat. None of this has surprised me. But anyway, look at this. Barack in Jewish gematria in 97 connected to Civil War in simple English gematria. Barack Obama's the 44th president, but he's only the 43rd person to be president because Grover Cleveland counted as the 22nd and 24th president. Obama gave his acceptance speech in Grant Park, which has gematria of 43, on the date November 4th, 2008, numerology of 43. Again, Civil War equals 43 as well. Began in Charleston. Barack in English gematria sums to 216. His birthday is August 4th, the 216th day of the year. Lincoln had an assassination attempt on him February 23rd, 1861. He would be shot April 14th, 1865, exactly 216 weeks later in Ford's Theater, which Obama reopened when he became president. Think about it. I'm not making these videos saying look out for an assassination because, you know, I think it's a cheery topic. I'm telling people to wake up because it seems like a likely step in the agenda, the planned narrative that they have laid out for us, that Obama's part of. Baroque simple English gematria sums to 36. If you add 1 through 36, it sums to 666. 216. 6 times 6 times 6 equals 216. Think about this year, 2016, drop the 0. Look at the connections between Obama and America. 84-84, 32-32. Obama reopened Ford's Theater. It had been closed for 32 years prior. Also today, big headlines in Syria, bombs going off all over, a lot of people dead, rough day for Syrians. Here's from the BBC. 78 people killed, 145 injured. That's their initial reporting. If you add those numbers together, it sums to 223. 223. BBC. B, the second letter, C, the third, BBC 223. Masonic equals 223. The Synagogue of Satan equals 223. Special numbers to the Freemasons. Bombing in a location with 47 gematria and 110. The words president equal 47, 56, and 110, just like the location. They said in Tartus, another bombing, at least 33 people, 47 injured. Tartus has gematria of 33, 33 dead in Tartus. You know, it's another type of civil war going on in Syria right now too, sticking with the civil war theme. Lots of civil wars in history. Remember, the Masons believe in divide and conquer and order through chaos, and they're who govern over all these nations. The Arab League formed on the date March 22nd at the end of World War II. Syria, all these Middle Eastern nations are a part of. Syria is banned from it right now. But March 22nd, 223, Masonic. You know what I just discovered? One thing, I discovered a million things today working on my book, but just with regards to the Middle East, the first Gulf War lasted exactly 211 days. That's the 47th prime number. Saddam Hussein equals 47. All scripting. Another big story today, FBI investigating Virginia governor Terry McAuliffe, headline with 187 gematria, the homicide code on this date that had all this foreshadowing for potential assassination. Today could just be another piece in the ongoing puzzle, and really that's exactly what it is. Some clue here with Terry McAuliffe. What I noticed about Terry McAuliffe's birth name, Terry Richard McAuliffe, gematria 223. You know, speak of the devil, right? That Terry McAuliffe. Never liked that guy. Supposedly he's under investigation for some financial potential wrongdoing. They have this $120,000 dollar figure. China, Vietnam. The word Illuminati equals 120. The man, the name brought up in the article, gematria 58 like Freemasonry, 130 like Washington. Terry McAuliffe, a man who spends a lot of time in Washington, D.C. Also, fellow subscriber pointed this out to me today. He said, you know, you did that recent video on the Illuminati card showing the license plate with the number 235 and 666 and it having to do with assassination and the man having a comb over that looked a little bit like Donald Trump. Well, I noticed something interesting about the 235th day of the year after he pointed it out. The 235th day of the year this year, because it's a leap year, will be August 22nd. And United States of America in gematria equals 228. A fair way to write the date, August 22nd, day before month. Death also equals 228. From August 22nd until the date of the election, span of 79 days. Murder 79, death 118. Think about the election on a date, November 8th. Lincoln was reelected on that date, only to be shot in Ford's Theater. November 8th, 1864. Also, with regards to Obama being in Vietnam today, Gulf of Tonkin incident, the incident that began the Vietnam War, well, with U.S. getting involved, it had been going on before that, gematria of 228. And they also say that the Gulf of Tonkin incident happened on August 2nd and August 4th. 8-4, 8-4 Vietnam, United States of America, Obama. All throughout history, the same numbers. But anyway, August 22nd being the 235th day, perhaps that is the May 23rd code. Remember, I took these numbers and I thought it meant maybe May 23rd. It's possible it's really August 22nd. So keep this in mind. As I say, my research is always ongoing. You know, it's not an exact science. It's learn and improve from your mistakes. Another headline today. Obama said the killing of the Taliban leader from this weekend was a milestone. Creepy thing to say, right? We're talking about murdering people. Obama's the president who signed off on drone strikes for Americans who are traveling abroad who are thought to be terrorists. That is the law of this nation right now. If you are deemed a terrorist by the U.S. government, they can legally assassinate you with a drone strike. Hate to find out how they have me qualified. Anyway, milestone has gematria of 49, like Revelation. The man who was killed, his name is Mullah Akhtar Muhammad Mansour, having gematria of 106, like prophecy. The number that they code again and again. Revelation, the book of prophecy. You know, we might read a future headline about some Taliban or ISIS retaliation for this. If you guys read my book, you'll see how often these same numbers show up again and again in war. Supposedly there was a Supreme Court decision today, a win for death row inmate. Remember earlier this year, Antonin Scalia died on the 44th day of the year. Today, a date with 44 numerology, the 144th day of the year. This decision goes to Georgia, the fourth state having gematria 44. All throughout history, the Supreme Court has made decisions by the numbers. Today's decision was 7-1. What's comical about the decision is every justice ruled in favor of the inmate. The story is that his trial years ago, it was in a racist town. They made sure they had an all-white jury, so he was guilty. And the only Supreme Court justice who voted against this is the only black Supreme Court justice. These Supreme Court justices are puppets. I don't think any of them have ever made an independent decision in their life. It's all part of the theater of this nation we live in. The people who run the show aren't in elected office. They're like the Wizard of Oz working from behind the curtains. And they got a bunch of actor agent puppets to do their bidding for them. Earlier this year, I talked about how Antonin has the same gematria as Justice. I talked about how the Dick Cheney shooting incident of shooting the lawyer in the face, quail hunting, was synced up perfectly with the death of Scalia. All part of a scripted joke. So in the headlines, there did end up being an assassination today. An attempt on a Japanese pop star. Personally, I've never heard of this person. I don't know a lot about their career. I'm sure there's a lot more to the story. But again, today's numbers had numbers having to do with killing, assassination, death. This took place in a location with 119 gematria, like all-seeing eye, like Star of David. The assassin is named as this person, Tomohiro Iwazaki, having gematria of 193, the 44th prime number. Think about that in light of it being on the date with 44 numerology, the 144th day of the year. The woman who was nearly killed and who still might die, gematria of 39, special number to the Jews. She's an entertainer. The Jews own entertainment worldwide, and Japan, very much under this same Masonic influence, working by this same numerological code as the other nations I often expose. Think of the Asian theme too. Asian equals 44, Asian equals 44, Obama traveling to an Asian nation today. This headline was also up today. 4 climbers die in 4 days. This was a big story all day in the mainstream. Horror on Everest. Think about 4, a lot like 44. CNN had this mountain of extremes gematria. Mountain of extremes in gematria sums to 84. Vietnam 84, Obama 84, all the 84 today. Here we're talking about Everest in Asia. You know, it shows you they're up to something. Tributes. Asian 44. Did that video earlier this year on how Obama renamed Mount McKinley. Very suspicious. McKinley assassinated. Also today, this story was up all day. It came out late last night, technically. But check this out. Same patterns. VP hopeful stands by Nazi remark. Ex-governor likened Trump plan to 1938 raids on Jews. You know, they just love to reinforce their bullshit propaganda from World War II, trying to get all that false sympathy. The people who are responsible for World War II are the Jews, are the Masons. Don't make any mistake about it. We're not talking about the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. That was led by Jews, a genocide of the non-Jews. And those people wore swastikas as well. Jews with Star of Davids and swastikas on their uniform. Remember that swastika means more than just Nazi. They posted this article at 411, the word assassins 411, JFK shot from 411 Elm Street. The word Holocaust is the reflection 114. Holocaust, the small way, is 33. But anyway, this governor that they had the governor that they had speak, 193, again the 44th prime number, just like the assassin in Japan. This story coming when it was Universal Time, already May 23rd. Came late last night. As I talked about, Barack Obama, Donald Trump both have connections to the number 68. This guy, Bill Weld, was the 68th governor of Massachusetts. Donald John Trump equals 68. Barack Obama equals 68. And 68, 2 assassinations. Martin Luther King Jr., Bobby Kennedy. Massachusetts, one of 3 states with the 33 gematria. You know, they're definitely hinting at something here. This story is going somewhere. And something else I want to comment on Morley Safer. I just did a video on this talking about how he's been getting all these tributes for his Vietnam coverage at age 33. He did that in 1965, a year with 84 numerology. He died at 84, age 84, the date Flight 804 disappeared. When I made all those videos, I overlooked something that's huge. The 60 Minutes episode before Morley Safer supposedly died was his retirement episode. So that's what happened. For everybody who watched 60 Minutes, they saw an entire episode about Morley Safer, and then he died a few days later. If he really died, they murdered him. But it's just gross, you know? They put this on TV, his retirement episode, and then he dies at age 84 a few days later by the numbers. You know what my guess is, though, the truth is? His real name's not Morley Safer. You know, they say in journalism, in mainstream journalism, the first rule is you lose your real last name. I think Morley Safer lost his first and his last name. Maybe he just gets to go be who he really was all this time, now that he's retired, enjoying the end of his life, age 84 on. But, you know, he's worked in the media his whole life. The media is a bunch of frauds. Morley Safer, no doubt a fraud of a human being. Sure, plenty willing to fake his own death. He's in the industry, he probably knows how it works. So, that was our May 23rd, you know, no major assassinations, but there's always more dates to come. This was the big one to look at. Turned out to be a big day of news, historical news, and I think it's a date that's foreshadowing something more to come. All right, Truth Seeker, until next time.